Welcome back. Before I got too far along with this turbine, I wanted to do a final build update to show you guys what I needed to do to get this ready to fly. But before that, let me show you what it used to look like. And here's what it looks like now. So I rearranged a lot of the turbine components to make this flow a lot better. So the fuel pump was actually back here. These solenoids were a different direction. But I did this to allow the fuel to run a lot easier. A lot more straightforward, much easier to troubleshoot if there was an issue. I put in all new fuel lines. I kept the radio system because it's DSM2, so it ties to my Spectrum receiver or Spectrum transmitter just fine. This was actually a brand new tank. I didn't realize it at the time, but the vent tube had never been drilled in it. So I drilled the vent tube, all new lines inside. Underneath here are two smoke tanks. I cleaned all those out, all new smoke lines. This smoke tank, or the smoke pump, is actually not working right now. So the last person that ran it ended up leaving smoke fluid in it, and it's gummed up right now. So I've been adding some alcohol to it, trying to get it freed up, but for now it's not freed up. I bought a FOD screen for it because the story on this motor, and come to find out, was it got a piece of FOD in it at about the 23-hour mark, and it got sent back to JetCat. JetCat rebuilt it, everything's good, but JetCat never made a FOD screen for this P70 motor. So I found a generic one and modified it, but it works really well now. The most significant change I made on this was this guy. So I actually changed this motor over from being a propane start to being a kerosene start. That's a kit that you can buy from JetCat for these older motors. It's about $175, and for me, it was an easy decision. So when I started looking at doing propane on this system, I found out that really the propane that they meant for it to use went out of existence in 2011. So the new stuff is different pressures, different makeups, and it became really complicated to keep this thing into a propane start. So with my lack of experience with turbines, for $175, I could convert it to the Kerostart, and it was a no-brainer at that point. So with the Kerostart, there's a couple of caveats from JetCat. So if your ECU up here is 5.0 or later, it's already set up and ready for Kerostart. So this one that's in it is a 6.0. I have also a 5.0, so either one of them would do it. So I decided to use the 6. It was the most recent one, and you just hit a couple of buttons. It's in the manual for the Kerostart, and you select Kerostart, and it goes okay, and then you rearrange how the solenoids work. So this has always been the start solenoid. This has always been the run solenoid. But with the Kerostart, it runs the fuel pump for both stages. So during start and during run. So you actually tee in, which they provide these Festo fittings, to tee in the start. So it turns on the pump during start and pulses the start solenoid to feed your starting kerosene into this fitting, which ignites the chamber, warms it. Then, once it's started, it shuts off the start solenoid, opens the run solenoid, and that goes into the regular kerosene fitting. So for me, that was a great addition. It didn't cost me that much, and it simplified everything. I didn't have to worry about the propane. This actually has a propane tank buried under there that's high sawed in, so I couldn't get it out. But to me, it became really dangerous. I wasn't sure. There were a couple of guys at the club that were like, oh, it's easy, you just do this and do this. But for me and my lack of experience, this became easy. I've shown that to one of the guys that does do a propane start, and he's like, I wish I could get that from my old King Tech. So he even appreciates it. I did move these gauges. They were down here. I moved those up here. For me, that made a lot more sense. That the fill valve is here and the gauges are here. There was the ECU start board was over here, and I've got it over here on this side now. So this jet, I have flown it once. It's gone through its maiden, and that's what this blue tape is. That actually is marks for a 6-minute flight with this jet, that tank, that motor. And it flew good, but the center of gravity, I had set it up per the manual. So per the manual, they say it should be 10 inches from the rear of the wing forward. And I actually had it set at 9.75 inches just because I knew it was already going to be nose heavy. I just didn't know how much. So we flew it. The guy that helped me fly it, great pilot, he's like, yeah, it's really nose heavy. You should take some of the weight out of the front. And I was wrestling with, well, how much do I take out? Where do I put the CG? So I did finally find on a forum where a guy said, you're going to want to make it 9 inches from the rear of the wing. That'll help it fly a lot better. And you may even move it beyond that. So I did move it to 9 inches. So it's ready for that flight, ready to check that out. To do that, I had 11 ounces of weight in the nose to get it to the 10-inch center of gravity mark. I ended up removing 10 of that, so now there's only 1 ounce in the nose. I'm a lot happier with that. The jet's lighter. But this motor does fly this jet just fine. It needs a little bit more throttle, but not terrible. So really happy, really excited to get my waiver. I'm ready to solo with this guy now that it's trimmed out. So we'll see you next time. Happy flying.